Today we're jumping into a really fascinating and intense set of Psalms, Numbers 94 through 102. These ancient songs are just this powerful mix of raw emotion. We've got cries for justice, calls for joyful praise, and this profound meditation on what it means to hope in a God who never changes. So let's dive right into the big tension at the heart of all this.
Yeah, the psalmist calls out to a God of vengeance. And that phrase, it can be pretty jarring, right? It immediately brings up this huge theological question, and it's really the core of what we're exploring today. How can a loving God also be a God of vengeance? How do those two things fit together?
Well, to even begin to answer that, we have to get the context. These psalms weren't written in a vacuum. They're a direct response to a world that's just filled with suffering and injustice. It's a desperate cry for God to finally step in.
I mean, listen to this line. You can just feel the frustration boiling over, can't you? It's that feeling of watching evil just go completely unchecked, seeing arrogant people get away with everything while good people suffer. The psalmist is basically screaming out to God, how long? How long is this going to go on?
And look, we're not talking about some vague, abstract idea of evil here. Oh no. The Psalms get really specific about these horrific acts. The wicked are targeting the most vulnerable people imaginable: widows, foreigners, orphans. They're actively scheming against the innocent, using their power to crush them. You have to understand that brutal reality to get why the cry for help is so desperate.
So how do we make sense of this? Well, this is where the source material offers a really interesting way to look at it. It completely reframes the whole idea of vengeance. It argues that what the psalmist is calling for, it isn't petty human revenge. It's something else entirely. It's pure divine justice.
And there's a huge difference, right? Think about human vengeance. It's usually messy, driven by selfish motives, just wanting to get back at someone. But divine vengeance, in this view, is totally different. The motives are pure. It's a justified punishment that's not just about hurting someone, but about making things right again. It's all about restoring a moral balance to the universe.
And get this, it's not even just about punishment for punishment's sake. The idea here is that God's actions are actually beneficial. They're instructive. They serve as a form of teaching for his people, a kind of course correction that realigns the moral order. So the big takeaway is that this vengeance is meant to be restorative, not just destructive, and that's a huge shift in perspective.
Okay, so once you grasp that this is about restoring order, the Psalms take a really surprising turn. You'd think the response to all this pain would be despair, right? But it's not. It's a total pivot towards worship, towards singing a new song. And this isn't about ignoring the pain. It's a bold act of faith, declaring that even in the middle of all this, a just God is still in control.
And this is not some quiet, hands-in-your-pockets kind of worship. No way. The psalmist is calling for everyone to get loud, to sing, to shout, to get on their knees, and to give thanks. It's active, it's vibrant, it's a joyful declaration of faith in God as the one in charge of everything, even when the world feels like it's spinning out of control. And this is where these ancient texts get so incredibly relevant to us right now. The Psalms warn about worshiping idols. Back then, yeah, they meant literal statues carved out of wood or stone. But think about today. What are our idols? This source makes a great point. Anything we give our ultimate loyalty to, be it money, power, pleasure, you name it, can become that modern idol. It's whatever takes the place that's really meant for God.
So we've got this call for justice and this turn to praise, but the Psalms are also brutally honest. They don't just skip over the hard parts. They dive right into the depths of personal despair. And strangely enough, it's right there, in that dark place, that the ultimate source of hope is revealed. Just listen to this. Wow, it is so visceral. It captures a feeling of complete desolation, of life just draining away. And the psalmist here is describing a state that's not just physical illness, but this profound inner anguish and spiritual confusion.
And that's the absolute heart of the pain, right there. The source explains that the deepest suffering here is spiritual. It's that gut-wrenching feeling of being utterly abandoned by God, left all alone to face your own mortality. It's a feeling of absolute isolation.
But then, right at that absolute lowest point, something shifts. The psalmist finds the ultimate hope. And it's all in this contrast. Everything created, the heavens, the earth, our own lives, it's all temporary, it's all going to pass away. But the Creator, the Lord, He remains unchanged. His kingdom is eternal.
And so the final resolution isn't that circumstances will magically get better. The hope isn't found in a changing world, but in an unchanging God.
The belief expressed here is that because God is eternal and constant, His people and their descendants will ultimately find a security and a peace that actually lasts.
And that really leaves us with a big question to chew on, doesn't it? The psalmist finds their answer in the eternal nature of God. So it's a powerful idea to reflect on. In our own lives, surrounded by things that are constantly changing and fading away, what do we believe is truly permanent?